It is 9 o'clock. In spite of the fact that our clock here is showing a couple of minutes slow, your administrator and I are unable to get it to advance a couple of minutes, but it is 9 o'clock.
That's because it's an atomic clock that sets itself to the standard in Colorado every night. That is the correct time.
Unfortunately, I think it's 2 minutes slow, but well.
Well, you're just 2 minutes late. It appears to be stopped right now.
Hold in the reset button. Hold in the reset button.
This is the meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. This meeting has been properly noticed, and we will call ourselves to order. We have with us this morning Pastor Mike Roeder, and he will lead us in our invocation. All rise, please.
Well, good morning. Good morning. I want to read briefly from Psalm chapter 33. Excuse me. It says, the Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of his peoples. But the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, and the purposes of his heart through all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people he chooses for his inheritance. From heavens the Lord looks down and sees all mankind. From his dwelling place he watches all who live on earth. He who forms the hearts of all, who considers everything they do. One of the things I really believe that it says that righteousness exalts a nation, and that his purposes are accomplished through people like you and I. And so on behalf of the community, we want to say thank you for serving, and I understand that there are a number of supervisors who this will be your last meeting, and one of you who has served for 26 years. And I'm currently reading a book by Karl Rove, and just is giving me a wonderful appreciation for those who serve behind the scenes. And so allow me to pray a blessing upon you, and a blessing upon all of you who serve in the deliberations that you'll have yet today. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for those who give of their time and their service. And Lord, thank you for the St. Croix County. Thank you for the many ways that you have blessed us, and we acknowledge you and your presence. We acknowledge you and your purposes. But God, you use men and women who have the greater good in mind to serve your purposes for this community. And so today, Lord, as we have important things to discuss, Lord, we want to ask for wisdom and discernment that we might be able to make decisions that would honor and please you. And God, we want to thank you for those who have faithfully served and given of their time and their energy to better this community. We pray a blessing upon them today. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was observing with Pastor Mike before we called the meeting to order that when we're young, we are often known as, the son of our father, and then for a brief period of time we get to be our own person, and then eventually when we get older, then we're known as our son's dad. And Pastor Mike is now in that category. Those of you that have been following any kind of sports are aware that his son was a outstanding athlete at Hudson High School and recently set a scoring record, 44 points, was it? 44 points, college scoring record. So congratulations to the Roeder family. Supervisors, will you indicate your attendance, please, for the roll? press the yes again and then confirm, Karen. Well, Karen, we know you're here, so. And with that, I will call on Administrator Thompson for his report.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair. This morning is a pretty important day, not only because we have a couple important agenda items before us, but it's also, like the pastor mentioned, the last board meeting of this board. And this is the board that, this is the only St. Croix County board I've ever known. So, and I've appreciated working with Esther, with Karen, with Lauren, Buzz, Steve, Roger Rebholz, Robert, and Linda. All 8 of you I've come to know and appreciate for what you have brought to this board. And each of you in your own individual way have made a difference here. That's really what it's all about as a board, working together as a board. All of us bring our individual talents, our individual desires and goals and objectives, but then as a board, we unite and work together, and that's the beauty of a board of County Board of Supervisors. And so all 8 of you, I will miss personally. I look forward to working with the new board in April, but it will be different. In a good way, it will be change, and the administration will move forward. But those of you that are leaving, personally, want to thank all of you for your support in my short tenure here. It's made a difference for me. The support that I have received from each of you individually in your own ways has been very helpful for me as I began here as county administrator. To those that are leaving the board, as we review and approve the bylaws, rules and bylaws today, there's a lengthy list of boards and commissions that I am responsible for filling. So, if any of you are interested in serving on, for example, the Bass Lake Ecological Conservation District Advisory Board, I have a job for you. So, in other words, stay involved, stay active. I know St. Croix County is a big part of your heart, and there's lots of ways to stay involved. And so, seriously, if you're interested in staying active on a subcommittee or a board or commission of the county board, let me know, or let Darrell know, let the vice chair know, and we'll make sure that we'll keep you busy. So, and stop in when you're in the center, in the government center, stop in at any time. My door is always open. Today on our agenda, we'll be approving the countywide strategic plan. This has been a lengthy process. It's been a 9-month process since I've been here, almost from day one, working to put the final touches on this strategic plan. It's been before the committee of the whole at least twice for initial goal setting and then for a final review, and it's before you today in its final form. And really, the implementation or the adoption of a strategic plan today is really just the first step, because now the real work begins as we develop operational plans and as goals and objectives are formulated for each of the departments and each of the department heads and the department managers, supervisors, and eventually all through the entire workforce. I've been spending the last few weeks meeting with department heads individually to review their specific goals and objectives for 2012 and how they fit into the strategic plan. That ultimately will lead towards the implementation of a performance-based compensation plan, which is in its infancy and will be brought before the newly formed administration committee sometime this spring, early summer, and for final board approval, hopefully later this year. But that is the next step in the strategic plan as to how departments are going to actually complete the work, led by individual department heads and managers of those departments. Would like to thank the work group that I put together on that: Pete Kling, Fred Johnson, Art Tobin, Tim Ramberg, Bill Rubin, Sheriff Schultz, Clerk of Court Lori Meyer. This was a steering committee, a work group that I had put together 9 months ago to assist in that process, because this is not about me, it's about the entire workforce. And so I had a very able group working, providing input all along the way. And it was a very valuable process, and I want to thank all of those that were involved, and then all the department heads that are working to actually get this put into place. It's been a good process. I've been sitting in on some of the department's staff meetings over the past several months. I've made a individual personal goal of getting out of the office and sitting in, meeting with department heads, staff meetings, not to interrupt or to interject, but to listen and learn about what's actually going on day in and day out on the ground in the individual departments. And it's been a good experience for me. I've gotten good questions from the workforce. And the goal here is to, and it relates back to the strategic plan, is I had an employee months ago approach me and ask me, what is this strategic plan all about, and how does it affect me and my job? And in other words, the employee. And so I thought I better start talking about this to the workforce and to the employees. And so that's another effort of mine as we move forward, meeting with employee groups and talking about it, communicating this plan. It's not a plan that will sit on the shelf. It's an active plan. It's an evolving plan. It's one that everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction, and that's what we're doing. We have a couple of high-level ongoing recruitments currently. The finance director and planning development director positions. I'm looking at a May or June timeframe. We've got some groups put together that will assist in the review of applicants, and we'll be bringing forward recommendations to the board in the May-June timeframe for those positions. We're also working on an orientation session for new and returning board members. You should have gotten a little card in the mail to save the date of April 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to be putting together a very quick but good, thorough overview of St. Croix County. We've got a staff group working and putting together a pretty decent program for especially new board members, but we're also hoping that some returning board members will also be involved. And it'll be a good opportunity for the new board to start to gel and to start to work together as a team, which I know we will do. I'd like to thank, I don't see her in the room, I would like to thank personally Michelle Petrick, our outgoing finance director. Michelle's been here going on almost 10 years and providing good financial analysis and good financial direction to the board long before I came. And she's also been helpful, right up until the very end. We've got her working on some pretty touchy issues, financial stuff, but she's been very helpful. and I want to thank her personally. We'll be having a special get-together for her tomorrow, and hopefully you've all been, put that on your calendars if you get a chance to stop in. Wish Michelle well. I think she would appreciate that. That is all I have for my report, Mr. Chairman. Madam Vice Chair, thank you.
The agenda has been distributed. It's my intention when we, I'm sorry?
Just do roll call again. Do a roll call.
Our county clerk is in doubt if anyone is present, and so she's asked if we would please do a roll call again.
It's just because I had to have it recorded. I took it off.
So supervisors, indicate your attendance, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm good.
And I believe it's Supervisor Hernchin that's not here, right? Joe is not here? Yeah,
Urgent, yes.
yeah. Supervisor Joe Hernchin is not with us. On vacation someplace in the south, I don't know exactly where. Arizona? The agenda has been distributed. It's my intention to take the agenda in the order that's listed, with the exception that the committee report from Veterans Service Office, which is a written report, we will start with that, and I'll highlight that, and if there are any questions, we can ask Merlin. But other than that, we'll take the agenda in the order that it's presented. The consent agenda contains a number of items. This information has been distributed for your prior review. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Supervisor Malik, is there a second? Supervisor Schrank? Alfie, do you have your second entered? And proceed to vote, supervisors, on the consent agenda. That is approved. We do have certain appointments that need to be made to the LEPC committee. That information also was distributed in a letter. You reviewed that. You see the names that we are appointing. We have two representatives that will be, three representatives that will be representing the American Red Cross, Ruth, Eric, and Bob, and we do have a representative then from the Salvation Army, Dina Bremer. These need to be confirmed by the county board. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Wentz, second from Supervisor Larson. Roger, if you will get your second in, please. And proceed to vote on the approval of the members to the LEPC. And that is confirmed.
No, you need to vote.
I did vote. And those members are confirmed. As Pat indicated, we do have a number of supervisors that are spending their last official meeting with us. And it is with a great amount of gratitude that we are able to recognize the supervisors. It's interesting, we are anticipating a minimum of 10 new supervisors next year. Now, a couple of those may be returning supervisors that served in the past, but that is going to be a fairly significant turnover from the board. And today we express appreciation to those supervisors who have faithfully served for a number of years. And first of all, I'd like to have the following supervisors just come forward for a minute. And Pat, if you would assist me with this. First of all, Supervisors Lauren Sather and Robert Shear and Steve Hermson and Karen Meyer, if you would come forward. And I would just like to briefly indicate the depth of service that these individuals have provided here for the county board. First of all, Supervisor Hermsen, during the time that he's been on the board, has served on Planning and Zoning, on Economic Development, Traffic Safety Committee, Public Protection, Emergency Management, Ad hoc Negotiations, and the Community Development Committee. Lengthy list of accomplishments, and Supervisor Hermsen, we appreciate it very much. Supervisor Sather, during his time on the board, has served on finance, on planning and zoning, on administration, and on West Central Regional Planning. And Lauren, we're indebted, and we thank you very much for your service. Supervisor Meyer, during her time on the board, and brief though it was, we appreciate you serving. As most of you know, Karen is filling the unexpired term of former Supervisor Gene Ritz, and Karen served on Public Protection and on the Fair Board. And Karen, we're grateful. And Robert Scheer, during Robert's time on the board, he served on Community Development, Public Protection, Emergency Management, and the Bass Lake Rehabilitation District. I don't know what Supervisor found his experience to be, but apparently there's some levity that the administrator finds. So.
Okay, I have a job for you.
Anyway, supervisors, thank you very much. We appreciate your service. Second group of supervisors I'd like to have forward are Supervisors Buzz Marzoff, Supervisor Roger Rebholz, and Vice Chair Esther Wentz. These supervisors each have served a minimum of 10 years on the county board. Gluttons for punishment all. First of all, Supervisor Buzz Marzoff, during the time that Buzz has been on the board, from 2002 until today's date, Buzz has served on Ag and Extension, Health and Human Services, the Fair Board, Willow River Rehab, the Lower St. Croix Management Commission, Community Development, Substance Abuse, and Council on Aging and Disabilities. A lengthy list, and Buzz, we're grateful and indebted to you. Thank you very much. Supervisor Rebholz was on the board, off the board, came back on the board. So Roger served on the board from 91 to 93, and then came back on the board in 2001. And during that time, served on the Highway Committee, Chair of Highway Committee, General Services, West Central Wisconsin Community Action Agency, Public Protection, Emergency Management, Transportation, Ad hoc Building Facilities, and Roger is my predecessor as board chair. Served from 08 to 10 as board chair. So Roger, we're grateful and indebted to you for your service. Thank you very much. Supervisor Wentz has a lengthy list of accomplishments. In fact, it's so lengthy, there we are. Esther came on the board in 2000, so has served from 2000 until today's date continuously, served as a member of Public Protection, served as chair of the HHS board, served on finance, on personnel, on administration, on council on aging, substance abuse, WestCap, Wisconsin Counties Association, ad hoc building facilities, and during this term she has served as vice chair. But the only thing I don't see on here is that you served on the Transportation Committee. So
I forgot that.
maybe Roger wouldn't let you on that committee. But we thank you very much. In addition to the certificates that we are presenting, we also have certificates of resolutions of appreciation that are presented to these supervisors by Wisconsin Counties Association. So those certificates are signed by WCA Executive Director Mark O'Connell, and again, on behalf of not only this board, but on behalf of Wisconsin Counties Association, we thank you for your service. I'd like to have Supervisor Linda Lucky step forward, please. Linda's service is almost beyond the pale. As Pastor Roeder indicated, we have a supervisor retiring today with 26 years of service. 26 years of service dedicated to St. Croix County. And I would like to read the resolution of appreciation that is presented to Linda by Wisconsin Counties Association. Some of you, I think, can relate. This is a resolution of appreciation, whereas serving on the County Board of Supervisors is oftentimes a thankless job wherein the hours are long and the pay is low. And whereas county board members spend significant time working with constituents and other members of the public, and whereas county board members must be knowledgeable on a wide array of issues, including land use, transportation, health and human services, and law enforcement, and whereas county board members spend a significant amount of time in meetings and public forums, educating themselves on all issues affecting county government. And whereas it takes a special kind of person to serve on the county board, willing to dedicate the time and personal resources necessary to do the job right, and whereas Linda Lucky is one such individual. And whereas Supervisor Lucky was elected to the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors in 1986, and whereas Supervisor Lucky served the citizens of St. Croix County for 26 years, and whereas Supervisor Lucky served with distinction on a number of county committees, commissions, and boards, and whereas Supervisor Lucky is retiring from the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors after 26 years of dedicated public service and will be missed by her friends in county government from across the state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Wisconsin Counties Association expresses its deepest appreciation to Supervisor Linda Lucky for all her contributions to St. Croix County and county government statewide, and wishes her the best of luck in all future endeavors. And this is signed by Mark O'Connell.
Based on the number of people who are standing up here versus the few still sitting in the seats, I'm wondering if those of us up here know something the rest of you don't. Maybe you ought to be really worried. But it's been a long time. I've witnessed many changes to the county board over the 26 years, and it's been an interesting journey and fun some of the time, and I must be masochistic or something to still be here. But to those of you who are going forward, best wishes, and be sure to keep the ship on course. Thank you.
As I previously indicated, our first item is the report from the Veterans Service Office. That written information is contained in your packet. Direct your attention to that. Are there any questions or observations about the report or things that you want to ask Merlin about? If not, Merlin, thank you very much. And you may return to your, what did you say, putting up new flags today? Okay, thank you very much. Our first agenda item is a presentation by Tim Ramberg, and this relates to the Gateway Corridor Commission and an update. Those of you that have been following this, the Gateway Corridor is that transportation corridor up and down I-90, and Tim has been serving on that commission, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. And I guess, boy, what a coincidence. Thanks for letting me be part of your bang on the way out and to continue on the way in. whether you're staying or not. I hope this interests you, and I hope you'll partake. On 4/4, down by the Sheriff's Department, April 4th, is a public input informational meeting to gather your input, your 2 cents worth into this process. My 2 cents worth, your 3 cents worth, and maybe in the back, your 2 cents worth. So this is a corridor, as you can see in the logo, it's a corridor into Wisconsin and out of Wisconsin with these gates. It's a gateway in, it's a gateway out. Minnesota says the same thing. Gateway into Minnesota, gateway out of Minnesota. And many of us don't know what this is all about, so hopefully I can zip through the who, why, what, where, when, and how. And the Gateway Commission started in 2009 by a group in Minnesota. It was the County of Washington County is the fiscal agent. They received $200,000 from the feds. And there's a total of about $1.4 million that them and the other entities that they grouped up with in 2009 called the I-94 corridor, now the Gateway corridor. And this is the process that they're going to take with the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration. Not the Highway Administration, but the transit. So I've learned a lot, you know, being part of this. I know Roger and Pat's been part at some of the meetings as well. And I've been on the TAC committee. There's the TAC, the TIC, the TAC, but the TAC is the technical advisory, the PAC is the policy advisory, and then there's the Gateway Corridor Commission, which you have Minnesota and Wisconsin both, and then the Regional Rail, and then the Met Council. And they're the ones that have it in their plan, the Met Council. Why are we doing this? Because the current traffic on 94 exceeds the capacity and the expansion that is intended to occur all the way to 2030, regardless of Stillwater. It may impact the Stillwater Bridge, may impact it, but to the degree of the folks, the 300,000 people living along the corridor, it won't affect the data significantly. And what the mission is for congestion, economic, environmental, social impact, safety, and then position us all for future federal funding on transit. I'll give a handout afterwards, but I'd like your eyes up here of these, so those taking notes can bring it home with you to look at, find questions, bring back on 4/4 for the professionals that are doing this and the data there. But why is Wisconsin included? Because we have more traffic on I-94 going from Baldwin to Hudson than they do between Madison and Milwaukee. 90,000 vehicles. It affects Minnesota folks. It affects what they do over there. And what happened was, I think it was Obie and McCullum got together and got a grant to this entity. And they wanted it to include both Minnesota and Wisconsin. So it goes from Eau Claire all the way to Minneapolis. So these are the strategies that and the data that have been gathered because of it. And it's moving people, not vehicles. I'm used to moving vehicles and the system for vehicles. This is moving the people. A little bit different, a lot of bit different as far as the funding mechanisms. Transit alternatives, there again is that $200,000. We're not participating anything in the dollars. It's $1.4 million funded by Washington, Ramsey, Met Council, and so forth. There will be a decision point in the future, I'm sure, when we get to the solid dirt moving type questions, and any planning we want to do that may piggyback onto these findings. It's across state lines, and there again is it must meet the federal guidelines process. That's why it's so technical, and that's why it's so detailed. Our mission is to find a locally preferred alternative from a whole boatload of alternatives. And what are the alternatives that we studied? Well, years ago, all we had was what, the horse and buggy? And so, and with technology and things moving and improvements with the buggies, we've improved the buggy, and the horse is still there. And maybe they use like a quarter horse, and with the inbreeding and the hybrid of the horse, the quarter horse, we have a hybrid quarter horse. But that's about as far as we can go with some of those technologies. So this group looked at 4 alternatives besides the horse and buggy. The conventional bus, the bus rapid transit, light rail, commuter rail that were moving forward in the study. And about 8 alternatives came out of these 4. The others, there's the rapid bus. I'll let you read that when I hand it out. The rapid bus, the light rail, and the commercial with the piggybacking on with the freight. So those that were eliminated very early on included the monorail type things, the Amtrak type things, the high-speed rail kind of things that already being discussed elsewhere, the streetcar type things. Well, when would those likely be considered? Opinions vary greatly, but not very likely. The corridor is along I-94, and where is it? It's 3 to 5 miles on either side of I-94, approximately 90 miles long from Minneapolis to Eau Claire. Broken into 4 segments, and there are the segments. Most of the heavy-hitting data is in Minnesota, of course. Between Minneapolis and St. Paul, all the options there. St. Paul to Woodbury, all the options there. Now we're getting more rural. Woodbury to Hudson, and then Hudson to Eau Claire. Those are the 4 breakdowns, and then we have our own breakdowns. Hudson to Baldwin, Baldwin to Menominee, Menominee to Eau Claire. Here is just a snapshot of what they call the no-build alternative. That's a misnomer. No-build is the alternative that includes the plans that exist in the communities today. So there is build alternatives but they're already in the plan. So no-build, take that with a grain of salt. This is the Minnesota side of things. A couple alternatives there. You can look at those later at your leisure. Just want to incubate some thought, enough interest for you to look into this to generate questions for 4-4. And here's the Wisconsin side. If you can notice that we got Wisconsin starts here, and then we have the dash lines with the spot shoulder lane on alternative number 2, which has some bus services in it. Here are all 8 of them, and I know it's awful busy looking, but if I could zip down through them. The no-build and the Transportation System Management, that's the TMS. You'll hear a lot of that. That is also a baseline consideration for the FTA, but it has park and rides on it, highway upgrades for bus, shoulder lanes in certain congested areas, but there's 2 types of bus services. It's called the 395, and they just grabbed a number out of the air, the Wisconsin 100, the W100. Note, the Wisconsin 100 goes through number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 8, not number 7, because it's replacing it. So there you have the no-build, the TMS, then you have 2 rapid bus transit BRTs and 2 LRTs. One goes downtown St. Paul, one doesn't. That's basically the difference. So of all these, last night came, later yesterday, came recommendations from this group. And I will hand those out as well. And they have recommended which ones to look at more closely to narrow them down. So when is this? It started in August of 2010, and it should be completed this year. The physical construction dates vary with a 3.15% inflation escalator. 2019 is the midpoint of construction, and as far as the capital costs that they have to add into the comparisons, and then the operating and maintenance costs is 2020 and 2030. So the following are the federal criteria requirements. We have to consider all feasible modes, except horse and buggy. Estimate the ridership and the routes and the stops and the build costs and the maintenance costs and the operating costs, and then detailed process for determination that, again, the FTA requires. These are the 2 key ones that Wisconsin folks, in my mind, need to keep in mind. That no-build alternative, what does it mean? It's a baseline, and it means that we still have park and rides planned. It's just not going to be submitted as an additional cost to the feds. Then number 2, which is basically bus services, 2 bus services on top of that. Upgrades to the corridor that require significant, not require significant improvement. And again, this is the bus services. And there's 2 of them. One that goes, it stops several times in Minnesota and Hudson. Another one starts from Eau Claire, only stops in Menominee, Baldwin, Hudson, and then a couple in the cities. So you see where there's 2 overlapping bus services. Now this is an interesting graph because one of the key elements in the comparison is new transit trips. The orange or yellow bar is number 1 and number 2. The TSM and the no build, and the blue is the build alternatives that are over and above that. Or in number 7, the rail, it's less. And the reason is because they're taking away the duplicate bus service. So there is the new trips that are generated by each model based on the model that the contractors have. Here is the boardings on each of them. Here's that 395 I talked about that starts at Cedar and ends in Hudson. And you notice that the boardings in Hudson is lower. One of the questions I asked, why is it lower? And they say because people will drive to the congested area out of habit before they get out of their car. Interesting thing. So I thought that was real interesting. And also another interesting point about St. Croix County is we import more jobs than we export in St. Croix County. Very interesting. That kind of raised some eyebrows. Here is the 100, the W100 that starts in Eau Claire and ends up in Minneapolis. Notice it's less frequent stops. Notice what the heck happened to Hudson, Baldwin, and Menominee. Again, the same kind of things is that they'll drive to the congestion before they get out of their car. And the model will incorporate the fastest time. The time to walk from their car to the bus is factored in as well. So that's where they come up with a lot of that. Here's the cost, the capital costs, and 2019 capital costs. The TSM is 80 million, and then you see the others comparables. The number 3 there is 440, and then you have the light rail is higher, the commuter rail is lower, and then number 8 was an interesting argument that they had. It's managed lanes all the way through. It's a mix of both. One of the worries they have with managed lanes is a lot of those improvements are highway improvements, not transit improvements, so they're not eligible for transit dollars. So there's a mix there. But hopefully this is sparking some questions for 4.4. Here is the operating costs in 2020, and you see how operating costs over alternative 1 vary, and I'll hand this out again. Interesting findings or signals in the noise that I feel is coming out of these things is the Federal Transit Administration is interested in the number of new trips, and the TSM includes already a robust service plan of 6,000 new trips in it with the 2 bus systems. And the light rail transit alternatives generate more new riders than the bus rapid transit. Interesting. Commuter rail has been as a net reduction in new riders, and again they show because of the removal of the duplicate bus service is probably why. And also, like I mentioned before, the model incorporates the notion that people's desire to drive to the congestion to transfer, as noted in the graphs. And the model will seek the shortest path of all components of the trip. And there's a lot of components, a lot of detail. I think we have a stack like that of the information from the technical advisory group. So that is what I wanted to spark some interest, hand this out. Hopefully you'll go to this meeting, bring your questions, bring your input. They want public input for the next step to reduce the number of options to the locally preferred alternative, 1. And in the handout I'm going to give you is the alternatives that they feel as a working group, the contractors and the team that has been assembled, they have just, you're getting this before probably anybody else because this is hot off the press as of yesterday, is the number 2, TSM, carry forward. Number 3, the BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, along I-94, carry forward. Number 8, carry forward with the caveat of careful, most of those are highway improvements. But maybe they'll pay for a bus. Maybe they'll pay for maybe a turning lane, I doubt it, but maybe they'll pay for a park and ride. So here comes the mix, and here comes the opportunities for funding to all entities. And then they do the Olympic Games on here. They go through and assign points and see who's got the most points or who scored a 10. And that's going on right now. So those are the items that are going to be narrowed down as we move forward. And I guess, like I think a wise man told me one time when we were evaluating a lot of things, I won't say his name, Roger Rebholz, is that if you're not in on it, you're down on it. So please be in on it, because otherwise we're all down on it. And this is not freight rail. This is not, what's that one we kicked out? This is not the big rail thing. This is moving people from Eau Claire to Minneapolis, and what works for us as St. Croix County? What works for us for each city, for each village, for each university? Let's give our 2 cents worth and see how we can move forward with this. And here's the website. It's on what we have there, thegatewaycorridor.com. This data that I'm handing out, a lot of it isn't on there. Maybe it will be in the future because the TAC committee hasn't regurgitated it to the PAC committee. So thank you for your time. I sure am. I'll hand it out while we cuss and discuss.
Wondering, Tim, who are the decision makers?
The final on that one chart. Tim, you want that? Thank you very much. Here's the other ones. This has been brought through the transportation plan that is in the Met Council, so they have the plan. But the rest of us have input through that chart that I'll throw out on here.
So eventually the Met Council will take a vote among its members?
I believe so. That's another good question to bring on April 4th to the folks from these entities that will be there. And if I could zip back to that. Oh, right there. Right there is the dynamics of the decision-making process. Again, they're the ones that were given the funding. They're the ones that were moving forward with this project, and so that they were basically required to include us to sit at the table. So,
Supervisor Rebels.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that we keep in mind that the Met Council, when we talk about the Met Council, it's the Metropolitan Council, but the Metropolitan Council has always included St. Croix County in its planning. So we're really part of the Met Council, but we've never been per se involved.
all right, and they can't run their data without us. Our people go over there and partake. So they need that data as they move through that process.
Supervisor Schrank.
The distance set from either side of the corridor, 3.5 miles, why didn't they go farther? Because like River Falls?
Microphone, Alfie. Microphone.
Why didn't they go farther with the distance away from the corridor? Because like River Falls, and then you get down Chippewa Falls, they all come into the freeway.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I know it was brought up and discussed. From my memory, we do have the University of Wisconsin River Falls present at these meetings, and they have, experimented with some bus services themselves. But they're talking about the residences along that for walking distance and those types of data-driven numbers in the charts. So they were talking about that. The rest is they modify it based on the University of Stout and the University of River Falls. Again, good question to bring up, to verify, and to speak to on April 4th, too. Thank you. Good question. And I know I think they have 0.25% sales tax they've assigned to help fund this from those counties over there, some of the entities over there. I'm not sure how that all works. So the funding mechanism I'm not real keen on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, keep in mind that date, 4th of April. Agenda item number 2 is a resolution authorizing St. Croix County Land and Water Conservation Department to apply for a 2012 planning grant. This comes to us from the Community Development Committee. Does the chair have a motion? Motion by Supervisor Hermsen, second by Supervisor Peavy. Discussion. I'm trying to elicit a little discussion because I'm killing time. Cindy's trying to get up. While we've got a moment, anything you want to say about the resolution from the standpoint of community development?
No,
Okay?
but if you'd like, I could have Mr. Heisey come forward and explain it.
Probably not necessary since we now have, the motion is from Supervisor Hermsen and we have second from Supervisor Peavy. Bill, if you'll get your second in. Since there's no discussion, supervisors proceed to vote on the resolution authorizing the planning grant. And the resolution is adopted. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution establishing total annual compensation for elected officials pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 59.22, and this is for the term of office 13 through 16. This needs to be set in place prior to the time that those that are either incumbent to the office or would seek to be a challenger and run for the office would take out nominating papers. This comes to us from the Administration Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Supervisor Marzoff, second by Supervisor Wentz. Discussion. Supervisor Lucky.
I was wondering on page 2, lines 49, 50, 51, or whatever, what, the new salaries are on the first page and 32, 33, 34, and so then what is the purpose of 48, 49, and 50?
I could speak to that, but I think I will have the Chair of Administration speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Administration Committee voted to support...
Do you have your microphone on, Supervisor?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Voted to support the second set of salary numbers on lines 49, 50, and 51, rather than supporting the recommendation from the county administrator, which was on line 33, 34, and 35. 33, 34, and 35.
I would say the action that took place, Supervisor Lucky, is that the second set of numbers was an amendment to the resolution. So the amended resolution is the figures that are on the second page.
So no salary increase then?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, okay, 61 to 63?
Supervisor
All right.
Thompson, maybe you should explain this, because you're right. It is an increase in the lift where it is now, but it's flat for the 4 years. Is that your question? Pat,
Yes.
you want to articulate?
Yeah,
that?
the first page just highlights what was recommended to the committee, Supervisor Lucky, and then on the second page is what the committee finally, after deliberation, what the committee finally came up with. And it's a flat, it's pretty much the same in terms of dollars, like Mr. Chairman said, but it's a flat increase through the 4 years. It's a flat amount, but there is an increase.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I have two questions then to follow up on that. Would it have been better had we then just had strict in the area that talks about the whereas, about the county administrators evaluated what his suggested compensation, since it was voted down apparently, wouldn't it have made more clarity to just strike that out of there and leave what was the voted on and approved salary increases for that?
Supervisor, I understand your point, but as I indicated, the resolution as presented in draft form was amended, and so what you see is the amendment. I think the resolution is in proper form, so you see the track, but I will defer to either the administrator or
I think
counsel.
either way, I prefer the way it's drafted, Supervisor Hermsen, because it provides a historical record of the recommendation that was made and then the adjustment that was made by the committee.
Okay.
And you had a second point?
Second question was, noticing here we got county clerk, registered deeds, and county treasurer, but I was curious about the sheriff.
The sheriff is currently in midterm. prior to the next term of office when the sheriff would run, a similar resolution would need to be done.
All right, thank you.
Additional discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. This is a resolution from the Administration Committee. Motion Marzoff, second Wentz, establishing the compensation for the terms that you see. Proceed to vote. And the resolution is adopted unanimously. Supervisor Norton-Baumann?
Thank you, Board Chair. Now that that vote is in, I'd just like to take the opportunity from the Administration Committee to thank the people who currently occupy the positions that these salaries will impact. I think we're fortunate in this county to have qualified people serving us in those positions.
So noted. Agenda item number 4 is a resolution authorizing the continuation of the self-insured workers' compensation program that the county is currently involved with. This comes from the Administration Committee as well. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion Supervisor Larson, second by Supervisor Wentz. Discussion. Esther second. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, I believe you're ready to vote. This is on a motion by Supervisor Larson, second by Supervisor Marzoff.
I noticed that whether or not there's a fiscal impact, it is checked yes, and I just wondered what that impact will be.
The explanation right there.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor Thompson?
But it's right on the same page, Pat, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
My question has been answered.
Okay.
I didn't read carefully.
All right.
Supervisors, I believe you are then ready to proceed to vote on the resolution authorizing the continuation of our self-insured workers' compensation program. Proceed to vote. And it is adopted unanimously. Agenda item number 5 was referred to by Administrator Thompson in his report. This is a resolution adopting the county strategic plan. This comes to the county board from the Committee of the Whole. This was vetted at least twice, I believe, in the Committee of the Whole. So presented for our consideration is the resolution adopting our county strategic plan. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion by Supervisor Seacard and second by Supervisor Shrink. Discussion. Supervisor Sather.
Well, just a point of clarification, Pat indicated that this was the final form of the strategic plan. And on the second page, Michelle Petrick signed off, there's no fiscal impact on expenses or revenues, but I believe, if I remember, just for clarification, isn't there a $15,000 bonus for Pat if we adopt a strategic plan that he presents to us? Wouldn't that be a fiscal impact?
You are correct in the part of the contract. Would that be an impact of the strategic plan? Why don't you respond to that? I understand your point. I guess I would be inclined to think it's a different issue than the strategic plan, but
It's a budgeted item, so I don't believe that there would be an additional fiscal impact. It's a financial cost to the county, so if you want to lump that in as a fiscal impact to the strategic plan, I suppose you could, but I think that's really a separate issue, but as long as you brought it up, there is a cost, financial cost to the county for that, but it's a budgeted item, so there will not be any additional fiscal impact.
Supervisor Malik.
That certainly is not going to change my voting attitude on this. I'm delighted to see that we have a strategic plan as good as this one is. But I think that raises a very interesting point as to how we will interpret in the future the fiscal impact statement. In other words, it's one suggestion before us is that a fiscal impact statement will be filled out to show that there is a fiscal impact only if the item is not budgeted. I don't know that that's a good policy. At least I think maybe it would be wise to refer that question to the administration committee to study a little bit. Not as it pertains to this particular topic today, of course, but to define for the future whether we really mean the fiscal impact statement to be defined in terms of whether it impacts that year's budget, future year's budgets, or any budget at all, and then report back to the board after some thought. Could I have that
So
be one
noted.
of those requests that you referred to the
So noted.
Committee? Good point, Lauren, to bring that up.
Any additional discussion on the strategic plan? This is a resolution that comes to us from the committee on the whole, which is presented on a motion by Supervisor Seacard, second by Supervisor Schrank. Proceed to vote.
Unanimous.
And their strategic plan is adopted. I would just echo the comments that Supervisor Malik indicated. I believe that this is an excellent document. It has gone through vetting. It gives us a roadmap for the future, and I think for all of us, this is a significant step forward to have a document that quantifies and puts in writing what we intend to do and how we intend to get there. So thanks to all that were involved in the development of the plan. Resolution number 6 is a resolution amending rules and bylaws of the Board of Supervisors of St. Croix County. This comes to us from the Administration Committee. Chair would entertain a motion. Motion from Committee Chair Norton Bauman and a second by Supervisor Seacard. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, before the board discusses this, just a house cleaning matter. Before you on your desk, you should have a list of summary 2 changes. It's a list of the bylaws were reviewed in detail by the Administration Committee and has forwarded. You should have received that in your packet, the recommended changes by the Administration Committee. Also, this morning, the staff distributed additional changes in addition to what the Administration Committee reviewed and approved. And most of those changes are house cleaning, grammatical changes. There are a couple that I would like to point out that are more than just grammatical or house cleaning. One is in Article 1, the definition of relative in terms of what we've recommended is the elimination of the verbiage immediate family and substituted the word relative. The word relative and immediate family were interchangeably dispersed throughout the language, and we wanted to be consistent, and so we're using the word relative rather than immediate family. We've also added the word rented to the language in terms of usage of county owned equipment or vehicles, we added the word rented. And that came as a recommendation from the Corporation Council and Risk Management. In Article 4, we added a sentence, no supervisor shall be the chair of more than one standing committee or HHS board. In the review of what the administration committee had brought forward, the staff asked the question, the way the board rules had been prepared, it would allow for more than one, or that a county board supervisor could serve as in the chairman capacity in more than one standing committee, so we added that language. And then in Article 5, we added language that would delineate that the Health and Human Services Board would no longer have separate rules and bylaws, that the rules and bylaws of the board would incorporate the rules and bylaws by statute, those that are required by statute in these rules and bylaws. And then secondly, along the same lines, we added language regarding the Board of Adjustment. We added an addendum to the rules and bylaws that would delineate by statute what the requirements are and the rules for the Board of Adjustment. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Supervisor Warren.
Can you speak to the change of number of supervisors for standing committees? And also in areas where, and it's in a couple different places, but in one of them, Section G, the agenda of standing committee meetings as approved by the county administrator? Is there a reason that you need to approve agendas for standing committees?
What is the language, Fred?
So
What?
Section G, Item 2, Article 4. That would be page 14. The agenda of standing committee meetings as approved by the county administrator and the committee chair. I guess I'm curious why we need as approved by the county administrator.
That's current practice, that the committee chair and county administrator consult on the draft agenda before it's finalized and sent to the county clerk.
And you feel that needs to continue?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Why is that? I believe that the county administrator needs to participate and provide input into the preparation of the agenda to make sure that the matters of business before the committee are in line with the work plan. And
Supervisor Horn, microphone.
and that's the county administrator works in consultation with department heads in preparation of the agenda, and so in past practice, many times the committee chairs would call or consult with various department heads in the preparation of standing committee agendas, and so the practice with the county administrator is that the committee chair would consult with the county administrator in the preparation of the agenda. The county administrator is in touch with the department heads.
So, I mean, I have no, I think it's very great value having you being contacted to getting your consultation, but setting it as the committees need your approval for their agenda items actually puts the county board subject to you on business for the county. And
Well,
I just disagree with that process.
it's working in conjunction with the committee chair. I don't know, maybe committee chairs want to speak up and as to how that's working.
Well, perhaps
Supervisor Malik.
we could approach from this way. Under what circumstances would you, as county administrator, deny a committee chair a proposed agenda item?
I can't think of any. I don't think it's happened. Unless it's something that has already been resolved by the board. If it's something that, I can't think of an instance where that would happen. In all instances, usually the county administrator and committee chair are in unison.
Supervisor Rebels.
Well, as chair of the highway committee, I felt strongly this was okay for this reason. It's pretty easy for us sometimes to just have a meeting because we have a meeting once a month. But I see no value in having a meeting if we don't have some policy discussion. If there isn't things that affect the policy of that committee, why hold a meeting? So we haven't had some meetings some months simply because we didn't have things that affected our policy.
Supervisor Horn.
I don't disagree with any of those arguments. And it's not directed to our current administrator, but if you get into a situation where a committee has a difference of opinion and a county administrator says, no, I'm not going to let you guys talk about that, we're subject then to the county administrator. I just think it should be the other way around. County board are the elected ones, not the county administrator. Nothing against Mr. Thompson. It's just, I just view it as we're putting this board under essentially the supervision of the county administrator. I don't think that's the way it should be.
Supervisor Sather.
Well, I kind of agree. The wording seems a little strong for the county administrator, but an option could be the agenda of standing committee meetings in conjunction with the county administrator, and the committee chair shall be provided the county clerk's office. I'm saying that instead of as approved by, be changed to in conjunction with the administrator. And does that sound better, Fred?
I'll actually make a motion
At this point, it would be an amendment.
or amendment.
State your amendment.
My amendment would be basically in all areas where it's agendas needing approval of county administrator, that it be changed instead of approved, that it be county administrator will be consulted.
In conjunction with actually works good.
With consultation. Consultation, in consultation.
By the county administrator and
Could you read how you want that word?
second, I'll second that, whatever.
Basically, instead of approved, that it's with consultation with the county administrator.
And specifically for so that we're all on the same page, not making a pun, but on the page that you're talking about.
Page 14.
Specifically the lines where you're at.
Section G, line number 2 there, section 2. Item 2. And I believe it's also with the Health and Human Services Board.
G2 is the reference.
And H.
And the HHS line would be where? On 15?
Page 15 would be the second line.
Yeah, where it says upon approval by the county administrators or upon, maybe it's upon consultation with the county administrator.
An amendment has been presented. Discussion now on the amendment. Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I was just maybe going to offer if I'm understanding, and I hope we're all on the same understanding, is to say that all agenda items, the agenda of a standing committee will be approved by the committee chair with review of the county administrator. If that would be more clear. What I'm hearing in conjunction is the same thing of saying we need both approvals. The final authority always does come down to the committee chair. And
are you making a comment, or are you seeking to amend the amendment?
well, I guess I was going to ask for a friendly amendment.
With the word consultation I guess in my mind, I mean, we're gonna sit and talk with the county administrator, but if there's a difference, that item, the chair of the committee item will continue to be on the agenda. That's my interpretation of
Okay,
this.
well then, I was just trying to state that the chair will be.
Why don't we just say, as reviewed by the county administrator and approved by the committee chair. So rather than saying as approved by the county administrator, we'll say as reviewed by the county administrator and approved by the standing committee chair. Is that
So is there a
acceptable?
reason that consultation doesn't work?
Well, at this point, the board.
That's the motion.
The board now owns a motion to amend, and it was presented on a motion by Supervisor Horn and seconded by Supervisor Sather. So unless the board wants to release that motion, it is now owned by the board and we need to deal with it. If you do not favor it, you'll vote it down. If you do favor it, you'll approve it. Discussion on the amendment.
Could you read it again?
The amendment indicates consultation, is that correct?
Vote against it if you want, refuse and approve.
Are you clear?
Yes, well, are you going to restate it?
Well, I'll have Cindy restate it, please.
I had a motion by Horn, second by Sather to amend, it's page 14, section G, item 2, and page 15, approximately on line 2. Is that correct?
This would amend the language. We're not voting on the resolution, to be amending the language.
Agendas, approval of the county administrator be changed from approved to in consultation with the county administrator. Okay.
Are there any other points, either affirmative or negative, on the amendment? Anyone wish to speak to the amendment?
I think there's substantial confusion in the room yet. And people are undecided whether if they want the kind of language that was most recently suggested, which is that the county administrator would review and the committee chair would approve. Then what they need to do is to vote no on this proposal for consultation language so that somebody can make a subsequent amendment with the review and the approve.
That would be correct, Supervisor, assuming someone does want to make a subsequent amendment. If
And
this
I do.
amendment is approved, the language is changed. If this amendment is defeated, we revert to the language that is in front of you today, which then may or may not be amended, but we would revert back to the main document. Are you clear? The amendment in front of us would change the language and insert consultation. So if you favor inserting that language, you will vote yes. If you do not favor that, you will vote no. Now are we clear?
So I can make another amendment.
All right, this is on a motion by Supervisor Horn, second by Supervisor Sather, to amend by changing the language. Proceed to vote. And the amendment fails. Now what is in front of us is the language as presented in the draft. Supervisor Horn, Malik, excuse me.
I move to amend in the fashion that has been drafted by Assistant Corporation Counsel Wolski there in conjunction with the Administrator Thompson, and give us the language so that Cindy can have it, please.
Do you have that in writing?
Yes, I do.
Would you read it, please?
So page 14, section G, number 2 would state, "The agenda of standing committee meetings, comma, as reviewed by the county administrator and approved by the county chair, comma," and then the rest would be the same. Committee chair. I apologize, committee chair. And if I can also point out that that change would be needing to be made on page 15, section H, and also page 17, section B, paren 4, B. And it would state the agenda, comma, as reviewed by the county administrator and approved by the HHS board chair, comma.
I need a second if there is one. Second by Supervisor Scheer. Discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Horn.
It was just a simple question. So if you have review authority, do you have rejection authority? Can you?
I would say no, that the final approval is in the hands of the chair.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional discussion on the amendment? This amendment on motion by Supervisor Malik and second by Supervisor Scheer would insert the language as indicated by Heather Wolski, which would indicate that it is reviewed by the administrator and approved by the committee chair. Is the second in? Proceed to vote. And the amendment is adopted. We now have an approved amendment, so the document that's in front of you now contains that language when we come to final vote on this document. Additional discussion. Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Yes, thank you, Board Chair. I'd like to offer an amendment for on two lines, please, on page 14 and page 17. A standing committee shall meet at such intervals as are necessary to discuss and act on business rather than or act on business. It's on page 14 and it's on page 17 under number 4. The HHS board shall meet at such intervals as are necessary to discuss and act rather than or act.
I'm not quickly finding that. Maybe others aren't as well. What is the line?
It's line, there's no line number. It's on, I'm sorry, the first one's in section G, page 14, number 2.
G2, all
Number
right.
1, I'm sorry, number 1.
G1.
The very first line.
Okay, the word or, you're striking the word
Yes.
or and inserting the word and?
And, yes. And on page 17, number 4, the first line, the same amendment there, please.
Is there a second to the amendment? Second by Supervisor Peavy. Motion, Norton Baumann. Second, Supervisor Peavy, to amend by striking a word and inserting a new word. Discussion. Supervisor Lucky.
I don't know that I care for that. If there's a by act, I take that to mean that there would be a vote and some resolution put to the issue. But many times when you have something quite controversial or complicated, a committee may need to hold 2 meetings or more on the same subject or issue. And so therefore, they wouldn't be acting per se if they came to the first meeting and listened to a discussion or a presentation by staff and got into a big argument or whatever went on, and then decided they really needed more time to think about it and or have the staff come back with something else, so on and so forth. So putting "and" in there would seem to tie the hands of a committee.
Mr. Chair, I think what you described, Supervisor Lucky, would be an action of the committee, because there was, the way I'd heard you describe it, there was discussion, and the committee referred the matter or moved it forward for either even further discussion or action. So I think the way you described it, there was, I mean, sometimes even no action is a form of action. And so I think it's a kind of a fine line. I think the intent, I can't speak for Supervisor Norman Bauman, but I think the intent is related back to what Supervisor Rebhol said, that agenda items or committee work should be focused on action and action items to move forward. And a lot of times, just because a committee doesn't pass a resolution or an ordinance or move something forward to the board doesn't mean that it's not taking action. I think that a lot of times issues that are discussed before the committee require further review, further discussion, and then ultimately, usually some sort of resolution.
Supervisor Sather.
I just, the committee of the whole comes to mind is one of our purposes was not to act, but was only for discussion as opposed to, I mean, I think we're splitting hairs here. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm thinking, again, I mean, sometimes you don't need to act on it. You want to research it farther, and that may be an action of not doing anything, but you don't always have to act on something for, and again, the committee of the whole, we meet to discuss, and we purposely don't bring anything forward or make any resolutions, as it were. So I think you can, or is just fine, in my opinion.
Supervisor Norton Bauman.
Yeah, my amendment comes from my experience of being in committees where there has been just discussion and no action. And even if the action is to refer the discussion item to another meeting, it makes sense to me that we know when we have an item on our agendas that we will take some action. We won't just discuss it and put it off to who knows when. So that's the reason for my suggestion of an amendment.
Supervisor Malik.
I have another thought. Some proper committee action is the review of reports. For example, the administration committee reviews the report of the treasurer, a constitutional officer. The proposed amendment would require the committee to take action on that report. I don't think that of course has not been our practice, and I don't think that it is required at all. So I'm going to vote against the amendment, I think.
Additional discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you, Board Chair. I think the fact that you have a meeting, you've established an agenda, you've taken a roll call, you've done all the process to get to the point of even discussing anything, is already an act. And anything brought before a committee can be tabled. Of course, that's an act. I think the moment the meeting is placed into order, action has taken place. So okay.
Any additional discussion? The amendment that's in front of us is to strike the word "or," insert the word "and" in its place in two places. This is a motion by Norton Bauman, second by Peavy. Proceed to vote on the amendment. And the amendment fails. Additional discussion on the draft document, once amended, that's in front of us. Supervisor Lucky.
I have a number of questions and comments. First of all, page 12.
Supervisor Chair inquires if any of these are going to result in motions.
Possibly.
Just need to be prepared to keep track if you do. Go
Okay,
ahead.
page 12, number 7, which is regarding the Community Development Committee acts as the County Land Conservation Committee. In the last line of that, number 7, is the word chair. And when I read this, I start wondering, what chair are we talking about? Like the board chair or the chair of the FSA committee? And does anyone feel that that should be clarified, or is it perfectly clear to everyone but me?
Well, the word chair is used and capitalized in the very same sentence, so it would appear to me that the reference is to the chair of the County Agricultural Stabilization and Conservation Committee. One would not normally go outside of the sentence if a definition is right there.
Okay.
Supervisor Marzov?
Perhaps it would clarify it if on the 5th line where the words "by the chair" are printed, we could just insert the initials FSA by the FSA chair.
Supervisor, are you simply suggesting that to see if it gets any traction, or is that an amendment?
I'll make it as a motion.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
On a motion by Supervisor Marzov and a second by Supervisor Lucky, language would be inserted in line 5 prior to the word chair, the initials FSA. Do I capture your amendment, Supervisor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Any additional discussion, or any discussion, I guess, on the amendment that's now in front of us? I'm sorry. Linda, put your second in, please, prior to the vote. Discussion on the amendment, which inserts the initials FSA. Seeing no discussion, we're voting on an amendment by Supervisor Marzov, second by Supervisor Lucky, to insert the initials. Proceed to vote.
Well, where'd you go? No, you won't.
Hey, Ryan, you gotta vote here, buddy. There you go.
And the amendment passes, right? And the amendment is adopted. The initials FSA are inserted. We now have a document twice amended.
Okay, I'll continue with my questions. On page 14, section G, number 3. It talks about the standing committee chair arranging for the draft minutes to be prepared. And then it says, each standing committee shall provide copies of draft meeting minutes to all members in their packets. What is some change contemplated there? Is the committee now responsible for distribution of materials, or?
I can respond to that question. I don't believe so. The committee chair can still delegate those duties to a department head. And for instance, I'm thinking of the HHS board may delegate those duties to Fred Johnson, and Fred Johnson then may direct his workers, such as Melva, to arrange for the minutes and distribute the packet. So it is an obligation on the standing committee chair to arrange for the minutes, but they can delegate those duties to the department heads.
Okay, my next question is page 17. Number 4, regarding Health and Human Services Board meetings. 4A says, and I don't know if this is this still included in there, that the HHS board shall meet only at such intervals as are necessary to discuss or act on business?
No.
That's been removed? Somehow I got a copy with it still in it. Okay, then down in D, 4D, was it picked up that at the end of that first line that the word provided probably shouldn't be in there? Oh, wait a minute, that may be all right.
It would seem to me that it should be there.
Provide pursuant to. Yeah, that's okay. Page 25. I'm wondering about this change of where the word provide is inserted in here. It's in C and D. Does this mean that supervisors can no longer receive printed material prior to the meeting?
I don't read it that way. Do you want to respond to it, Heather?
No, we changed the word from, I believe it was mailed, to provide. And the reason being is if supervisors want to receive it in mail or printed, that's the way we will provide it. Or if they're fine with receiving electronically, either email documents or with some new software we have that supervisors will be able to get the material that way. It just allows for, the requirement is taken away that it has to be mailed. So I think, and I could be mistaken, but in orientation, that will be a question that will be asked, is whether or not supervisors prefer to receive printed material or if they would be okay with receiving it electronically only. That obviously would be save on papers, postage, but I believe that was the intent of changing that section.
Okay, so you'd still be able to get.
I think it is too, and I can speak to that because I'm trying to not have any paper come.
Well, I find that if you're going to read and mark up an ordinance, it's nice to have it in writing in front of you before the meeting so that you can make notes in the margins. Okay, that's
Next.
good. Next one, page 26, number 5. Is this one something that we still need to have in here? It strikes me that someone may need to leave the meeting to go to the restroom or get up to take a document to some other supervisor or something like that.
You know, I've never noticed that before. That's kind of a nice one.
That's right. That's in here. That's an old carryover. I mean, that's been in the rules. It's a carryover. I think it just addresses decorum.
I move to remove number 5.
Easily taken out.
There's still rules for the chair to provide proper decorum of the.
Sure.
Motion Malik, second Lucky.
Yes.
And this would be an amendment to strike number 5 in its entirety and move 6 up to 5, correct? Proceed to vote on the amendment. Wait a minute, was there any discussion on that? If not, proceed to vote. That is approved. Further points, Supervisor Lucky?
No.
Okay. We now have a document that has been amended 3 times. Move, 26. Additional discussion, Supervisor Schrank.
I have one on page 21, C. It says 3 supervising members are appointed by the Health and Human Services Board. I think that we should designate where the 3 supervisors come from. And my idea of it is that one supervisor should come from the Health and Human Services Board and one supervisor from the Public Protection Board, and one supervisor at large.
Seems to me that there's a statutory requirement on this, is there not?
That's for the substance abuse. That's for the substance abuse subcommittee.
Well, for the Health and Human Services Board, we have 3 citizen members.
It doesn't.
One a doctor.
Right, that's not, I don't think it's referring to that, correct?
Okay, correct. Okay.
No.
There's
Alfie's
there's
talking
no reference where
substance abuse.
the supervisors should come from. It just says that they, the 3 supervised members are appointed by the Health and Human Services Board.
Correct. You could specify and clarify that if you want to.
So there is no statutory requirement
Not-
for that?
No,
Not
no,
for substance
not on that.
abuse, not sewer on substance abuse.
Right,
It's
I
not-
understand that.
No, there isn't.
We aren't even required to
Okay.
have a committee.
Okay.
It's our own creation. And your
Supervisor, I'm back to you then. Are you presenting that as an amendment?
Yes, sir.
HHS, Public Protection, and At-Large. Is there a second to the amendment? Second by Supervisor Malik. The intent of your amendment is, rather than leaving this at the discretion of the HHS board, you're making it mandatory that they come from that composition. Is that your intent?
That's correct.
Discussion on the amendment. Supervisor Hermsen?
Thank you, Board Chair. I guess I'd be a little reluctant to specify that criteria when the idea behind it was to give the HHS board the latitude to make as they see fit for all of these subcommittees. And I guess the question would follow after that, why are we focusing in on substance abuse versus Council on Aging or any of those to specify people coming from certain committees? I don't know if this helps us or not. I think you're tying the hands of the board in areas that may not benefit doing so.
Supervisor Wentz?
I think the idea is a very good one. However, it's very difficult when you're appointing people to serve on a committee like the Substance Abuse, who is a committee that operates without a budget, but we're there as a committee to educate the public about the problem of drugs within our county and what we can do as citizens of our county to help eradicate it. I think we're better off if we don't designate where they come from. We need someone who's interested, first of all, in the committee itself and in doing the work of the committee. And by saying it has to come from a certain area, I think we are kind of tying the hands of our Health and Human Services Board. I think the idea, the conception of the idea is wonderful, but I think it's going to be very difficult to follow through with it. I would prefer that we leave it up to the discretion of the Health and Human Services Board to appoint those people who show an interest in substance abuse.
Additional discussion? Supervisor Malik?
Ever since the founding of the committee, there has always been at least one member of the Health and Human Services Board. In fact, yourself
Yes.
have continuously served on it. Has there ever been a member from the Public Protection Committee? I don't remember appointing one back at the beginning when the board chair appointed them, and I did it.
I don't remember anyone being from the
And
public protection area.
Well, the amendment that's proposed here, that would be the only change from the history of this committee, is to make sure that there's somebody from Public Protection Committee on it. The at-large could still be a member of the Health and Human Services Committee, and the other one, as Alfie has suggested, would be from Health and Human Services. It seems to me that, therefore, the nub of the matter, the nub of this amendment is to have somebody from the Public Protection Committee on the Substance Abuse Committee. And given the nature of its work, that seems to make a lot of sense. And of the 5 members of the Public Protection Committee, there ought to be at least one who shows an interest in the subject of minimizing substance abuse. And the liaison that would be created between the Public Protection Committee and the Substance Abuse Committee is probably what Supervisor Schrank had in mind. A good idea to have liaison between law enforcement and reducing substance abuse. So I think I'm going to support it.
Supervisor Lucky.
I'm wondering, at the top of page 20, it defines a subcommittee, and it says a subcommittee is a permanent subdivision of a standing committee. So with that definition, is it even possible to have a member of a subcommittee who is not also a member of the parent committee?
I would think yes. Do you want to respond to that?
I think there still could be a member of it. All that is saying is that the committee that has supervision, I guess, over that subcommittee is the parent committee. So in these cases of both Council on Aging and Substance Abuse, the parent committee is the HHS, or yes, the HHS board. But I don't think that matters. Then you could still have a member of the Public Protection Committee on that subcommittee.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. On page 21, at the top under B, in response to Supervisor Malik's concern about a Public Protection Committee member being involved with this subcommittee, it seems that the sheriff or a designee is one of the participants in the committee, so there ought to be, I would think, some coordination between the Sheriff's Department and this subcommittee without tying the hands of the Health and Human Services Board to try to find somebody on the Public Protection Committee who has a great interest in substance abuse.
Any additional discussion? Supervisor Malik.
Well, I think the philosophy of this, with respect to the last speaker's comment, is that staff or constitutional officers represent one sort of point of view, but supervisors represent a different point of view. And that, just as Supervisor Horn was making an earlier argument about, the proper role of staff and elected supervisors, I think that Supervisor Schrank is making a similar point here in saying that there's a point of view that comes from the county supervisors on the Public Protection Committee that ought to be represented on the Substance Abuse Committee.
Additional discussion. Supervisor Wentz.
If we designate where the supervisors have to come from, the committees that they're going to represent, we kind of tie the hands of the people appointing them, because we have a lot of supervisors that might be very, very interested in being on substance abuse, but they're not necessarily a member of the Public Protection Committee. So what happens to that supervisor? Then maybe we appoint somebody that has a little interest or maybe no interest, but they're on the Public Protection Committee. I would rather leave it open so that we can take all comers. And if one of the people that's very interested is on the Public Protection, I think that's wonderful. But I think to designate they have to be from there really takes away from the rest of the board that might want to be on that particular committee.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Well, I'm going to stun the crowd and say I'm going to agree with Supervisor Wentz. And,
Wow.
At the final hour, he gives in. Yeah, but I was going to add to Supervisor Wentz's comment is there any requirement that members serving on the Public Protection Committee have a requirement to have some interest in substance abuse? If there isn't any, then what do you do in the event that no one on the substance abuse or on the Public Protection Committee wishes to serve in that capacity? If they don't, and I don't think, I think you'll always want to take a supervisor that has an interest over one that doesn't. So keep that in mind, I guess is what I'll say.
Any additional discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote. This is an amendment that would designate that the three appointed members on page 21 to the Substance Abuse Committee come from HHS, Public Protection, and at large. This is a motion by Schrank, second by Malik. Proceed to vote.
Oh, sorry. Look at you.
Alfie, get your second in,
I'm sorry.
or Malik needs to get his second in.
Esther left the room.
You've pressed it too soon, that's all.
Proceed to vote.
Roger opposed still.
Are you ready?
Yes. Vote you really, you are excused.
Push the right button now. I pushed the wrong button.
And the amendment fails.
See, you got me all shook up.
Any additional discussion? Any additional discussion, supervisors, on the document that's in front of us that has now been amended 3 times? Supervisor Marzov.
Mr. Chair, I have a hypothesis about the atomic clock. I noticed that it's left the room.
Didn't even have permission.
You tried to walk in front of the board chair.
I'm wondering if it had, atomic ache.
With that, I suspect that we have exhausted our discussion on the bylaws. Are there any additional points? We now have a document, supervisors, that has been amended 3 times.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask a supervisor to make a motion to incorporate the changes as summarized on the document before you on summary 2. Okay. Yes.
Yes, that, thank you
Yes.
for pointing that out. Right now, that is not part of this
Right.
document. I would suggest that that is an additional amendment to bring it into
Correct.
this.
Correct.
Chair would entertain an amendment incorporating the changes that were on summary 2, which I can't even find, but I know I read it earlier. Summary 2's motion by Seacard, second by Marzov. And I assume there's no discussion on this. Buzz, is your second in?
Sorry.
Proceed to vote, and this,
Or just one question, quick question.
Supervisor Hermsen.
Thank you. There are no, of all the amendments or this additional changes here, are none that have been discussed previously here of the changes we've made.
Nothing.
So all
Right.
these are in addition to what we've discussed.
Right.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
correct. So this would be an additional amendment. Proceed to vote. Supervisors, the document that is now in front of you on an original motion by Supervisor Norton Baumann with a second by Supervisor Seacard now includes 4 amendments. Those amendments were, we changed to review by the administrator. We inserted the initials FSA in front of chair to designate the Farm Service Agency chair. We removed in its entirety on page 26, number 5, and we have now incorporated the changes on draft summary number 2. Are you up to speed? That is the document that's in front of us. This comes to us by the Administration Committee on the motions that I indicated. Proceed to vote. And that is approved. Supervisors, we have one agenda item left, and I anticipate that there may be some healthy discussion on that one as well. So at this point, we will take a 10-minute break. We will stand informal for 10 minutes. We are back in session. We have one remaining agenda item, supervisors. Agenda item number 7. This feels like deja vu, but in front of us today is an ordinance repealing Chapter 41 and creating Chapter 21, St. Croix County Municipal Solid Waste Reduction, Recovery, and Recycling of our Code of Ordinances. Chair would entertain a motion from Community Development Committee. Motion by Supervisor Hermson, second from Supervisor Marzoff. Discussion. Any comments you want to make about this? Seriously, Supervisor Hermson, we have taken this up several times in the past. It was here, went back with a number of comments that came out of our board discussions. So any comments that you want to make? And then I'll call on you, Supervisor.
I would say that it's been a long road on this. It's been 4 years. 2 terms going across this. I believe it is important. I don't know if board members and residents, given their concerns that have gone on with it, but I don't know if they are really realize the impact that this can have on, from a budget standpoint and the savings of their garbage bills and things of that nature, why we are trying to make sure to bring this forward. I hope we've addressed all their concerns, but at this point, I'm going to leave it to other comments, that other people's notions, and leave it at that, I guess.
Supervisor Peavy.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. You'll note that I voted to bring this out of committee to the county board. The committee's worked on it for over 3 years, and I've only been on the committee for 9 months, so I thought it was needed to come to the county board. However, I do not support it in its present form. Anybody who was at that hearing in Baldwin understand that the people of this county do not like the way this ordinance is written. I think it creates a 2-tier system. If you're not a county responsible unit member, your township or village, then you have one ordinance you have to follow. And if you're in the county system, you have a different one. So to me, this is a do not ordinance, and we need a you shall ordinance. And therefore, even though I moved to bring it out of committee, I do not support this in front of the whole county board. Thank you.
Supervisor Sather.
Well, I voted against it, not to even bring it to the board, because I haven't been real enchanted with this ordinance and the changes. Some of the things that are, I guess, too subject to interpretation on what you can and can't do. I don't believe that more regulation is going to reduce anybody's expenses or costs of recycling or waste. One of the many things that just don't make sense to me is on page 2115, D, enforcement, section C. The planning and zoning director is not mandated to follow the order of possible action if, in the planning and zoning director's discretion, a situation requires different action. In other words, we got rules of what he should do unless he doesn't want to do them. Well, there's just too many things that are anti-American in this deal. Thanks.
Supervisor Marzoff.
In concert with what Steve indicated in his opening comments, I just want to give some words of sincere thanks to Jennifer Havens and Ellen Denzer and others in the Planning and Zoning Department that have worked tirelessly and endlessly in preparing the various revisions for this ordinance, and I intend to support it.
Supervisor Norton Baumann.
Thank you, Board Chair. In the 6 years I've been on this board, I don't believe that I've ever seen an ordinance have as much review as this ordinance has had. In the last 2 months, we've had 4 public meetings for anyone to come to with comments that they had to make or suggestions that they had to make. And we as a committee have taken all of those comments and suggestions into account and made changes based on what the public, the haulers, the municipalities, the townships, what all of the participants have asked us to do. The townships have not at all objected, to my knowledge, to this ordinance, and the participating units are the ones who will be affected by it. So I intend to support this ordinance and ask that this board pass it get it done, because there's been more work on this than anything I have been involved in this county board service.
I'm seeing no additional hands. Anyone wish to speak on the resolution that's in front of us? Supervisors, I believe we're prepared to vote. Agenda item number 7 is an ordinance repealing Chapter 41, and it is in fact creating Chapter 21 of the St. Croix County Municipal Solid Waste Code of Ordinances. This comes to us on a motion from the Chair of the Community Development Committee, Supervisor Hermsen, second by Committee Member Supervisor Marzoff. Is your second in, Supervisor?
Yes.
Supervisors, we are prepared to vote. And it is approved on a vote of 12-5. I would just say to the members of the Community Development Committee, you have done, no matter how you vote on this, I would just say to all of you, you have done yeoman work. I know that there were hours and hours and hours of time invested in this. So thinking back to the language that was in the resolution that I read for Supervisor Lucky and was presented also to those with more than 10 years of service from WCA, the language was pretty correct, that if you serve in some of these capacities, you invest a lot of time and effort, and this committee did. And we all thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Supervisor Hermsen.
I too would like to add, as chair of the Community Development Committee, to thank Ellen Denzer and Jennifer Havens, as Supervisor Marzoff has, that the hours and hours of work that they've put in. But given the controversy that has gone on with this thing, I do want to recognize Supervisor Lucky for her extra diligence in it. It really, that, I believe, her time and effort putting into the details is what really brought this around to something that I think the people were much more happy with. So to that, I want to thank you, Linda.
Yes, thank you. Cindy, do you have any reports of correspondence or rezoning requests?
I have nothing to report.
A couple of quick announcements during our break. Supervisor Schrank asked if I would make mention of the action last week. For those of you that may not have been reading any newspapers, last Wednesday evening, the United States House of Representatives on a suspension calendar debated the approval of the St. Croix River crossing, and on Thursday morning on the suspension calendar with a supermajority vote did in fact approve that. So at this point, the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives both have approved the mediated legislation, and that will now proceed. So not everyone on this board was unanimous in support of the particular project, but I think the vast majority were, and it's been the policy of the board for a number of years to be in support of that project. So Supervisor Schrank, I'm indicating that that last congressional hurdle was cleared. In already, Tim Ramberg pointed out to me that there have been a couple of cost reductions as we've now started to get into some specificity, and MnDOT has already started to revise downward the cost number of the project. So we are where we are, and we are proceeding. A couple of other quick things. These are dates. Make sure you have them on your calendar. They were announced. First of all, the date of the 3rd of April, which is the next determining date as to the composition of the board next year. We know that those that retired today are retiring already, and some of the rest of us may be retiring involuntarily, but we'll see how that date turns out. And then we do have the date of the 12th of April, and as Administrator Thompson pointed out, that is a date that will be an orientation for the newly elected supervisors, of which there will be a number. But I would personally encourage those that will be returning supervisors to also avail yourself of that meeting. And one of the reasons for that is it will give an opportunity perhaps to meet for the first time some of the newly elected supervisors. And there will be a significant turnover and some advance contact in bridge building, if I might make a pun, might be beneficial in advance of our organizational meeting in April. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, supervisors, we have completed our agenda and we're adjourned.